It is Monday, June 15th, 2026. Hi, everybody. Gary Stocker back in front of the Blue Yeti microphone with This Week in College Viability News and Commentary. And of course, this is a podcast that talks about the financial health and viability and much more of public and private colleges with data and with details and with perspectives offered nowhere else. And of course, sitting in front of that Blue Yeti microphone and the always running Riverside.fm podcast site. Where are we headed this week? The University of Denver, just up the street here from Colorado Springs, plans to close some departments and merge schools as part of an academic restructuring. And we hear those stories on a regular basis. And this is a good story. Not everybody agrees with that, but this is a good story, and I'll tell you why. A regional college laid off all of its librarians back in 2024. Now it has to hire them back because an arbitrator says so. And a couple of colleges in today's show are whining about their Forbes grades. Of course, Forbes produces their annual grade of private colleges, and a couple that got bad grades, D's, as a matter of fact. One even sent out 2 trustees to respond and refute the Forbes argument. I'll talk about those. And Massachusetts passed a law back in 2018-19, something like that, to stop abrupt college closures. It's not working, and I'll tell you what will work. And so let's go, as always, to layoffs and cutbacks. And as I said at the top, the University of Denver to close departments, merge schools as part of academic restructuring. They're closing religious studies departments and the electrical and computer engineering department. And Elizabeth Hernandez had this story in the Denver Post. That was last week, the June 9th. And I looked at UD's finances. I looked at the University of Denver's finances. And this is one of the infrequent cases I see that a college is simply getting ahead of financial challenges. They're doing the right things. This is not even close to being an at-risk college. It's a financially strong college. Yet already, and I've got one later in the show, I've already seen follow-up news stories where faculty are complaining, and I'm guessing there will be a no confidence vote sometime soon. Maybe even some student protests when they get back in August. It's always happened and always will happen. And the University of Syracuse University, they had an announcement. School won't meet its enrollment target for next fiscal year. The Spectrum News staff had this on June 12th. And the chancellor, President J. Michael Haney, said it carries real financial consequences. Okay, he says this is a moment for urgency and purpose, not panic. And Haney said he will do everything to get the college on the right track. And he also mentioned that he has spoken with other university officials, other colleges, who say enrollment volatility is widespread. Okay, duh. Yeah, I don't doubt that. And so this is interesting because it was all over the news. I just grabbed the stories that most succinctly share the information. But you may recall a year ago that Syracuse, I think, was the first that went on a post-May 1st, the college decision deadline, went on a post-May 1st marketing binge to try and reel in students who had already committed to other colleges. They did this with what I'm going to call increased tuition discounting. I think they had some fancy scholarship name for it. And others have followed, and it's always been my perception, and I think across the industry, that even though students commit on May 1st, there's what's called summer melt, where they choose not to go to college or even choose to go to other colleges as well after that commitment date. So it's not a fun time for college enrollment folks who would like to be able to get focused on the next class. And throughout the summer, many, if not most, if not all, are trying to keep their current class in place for this August and September. Adrian Liu had the story in the Chronicle of Higher Education. A regional college laid off all its librarians in 2024. Now it has to hire them back. Western Illinois University, it's a frequent flyer on the show. And I think I shared this before. I doubt that it will ever close because it's public. But if there is a prototypical public college that could close, it, in my mind, would be Western Illinois University. And so they faced declining enrollment. They laid off over 100 people a couple years ago. And now they have to hire the librarians back. An arbitrator ruled in late May that Western Illinois improperly laid off all of its faculty librarians and 2 additional faculty members and ordered the university to rescind the layoffs, provide back pay, and reinstate those who wish to return. Now, Western Illinois goes through administrators as fast as you and I go through a dozen eggs. And so I just not a good situation. Let's move on. Iowa colleges say Forbes report misses the story. This is one of 2 stories like this. ABC 9 in Cedar Rapids had the story. Keegan Turnbow did the reporting on June 8th. Coe College in Iowa told TV9 in a statement, I guess not brave enough to actually talk to him. This is a college that received a D. And keep in mind that Forbes does not do Fs. Lowest grade is D, and I think 27% of all private colleges, some 900 plus, that Forbes reviewed, got a D, not good. So Coe said, we are aware of the Forbes article and recognize the challenges and headwinds that colleges and universities are facing nationwide, and Coe is not immune to the colleges. Every college says that. They go on to say, this is what caught my attention. The scope of the methodology behind the Forbes grading scale is narrow. No explanation. They just say it's narrow. And they go on to pat themselves on the back. Having the willingness and capability to realign approach is essential for colleges and universities as the rate of change across industries accelerates. At Coe, they say we have successfully embraced that evolution. And here are the examples they gave. Listen to this. Generalizations after generalization. Coe is experiencing great momentum, and student interest through the addition of an aviation studies and flight operations program. No numbers, just momentum and interest. It goes on to say we're seeing similar momentum. Oh my. With the addition of engineering physics program, as well as other areas of study. And they go on to add, of course, having expanded to include women's wrestling. You heard me talk many times about adding sports. And the college has benefited from a number, no number given, just a number of large gifts from a nationwide donor base to support current operations and the growth of new programs. I might add new programs in a declining market. Good luck with that. Just pay attention to the undocumented generalizations that I just kind of teased about here. True transparency from Coe College would actually include some numbers. Actually include how much momentum. Are we talking 5 students, 500 students, 50 students? How many in the wrestling program? Large number of gifts. How many gifts are we talking about? What's the total amount? And I'm not going to go over Coe's finances. The Forbes grade is good enough for me. If you want a screenshot of the key measures from the Prospective Data Science College Financial Compass, drop me a note to Gary Stocker at College Viability. Say, hey, Gary, send me the Coe data, and I'll send you that screenshot of 15 key measures. You can make your own decisions. And Calling's Forbes methodology narrow is gutsy, I guess. But it's typical. It's typical of colleges not interested in financial health transparency, just really trying to manage by public relations. And again, look at our college inspection report at mycollegeviability.com. And let's not just Coe, but when we look at these grades, it's not just the D grade. Look at the comparisons. Look at the colleges that got A's and B's, and even those with C's. And the A, B, C versus D it's comparison that matters. It's the comparison that matters. Don't get sucked up by just the absolutes. Yeah, the absolute grade is an issue. And I think I talk about later on in the show, there are many colleges I've noticed since the Forbes grades come out that scored A's, B's, and even some C's that are patting themselves on the back. So how can the colleges that did well say the method is good, and the colleges that didn't do good say the method is bad? Okay, go for it. Bastyr University, B-A-S-T-Y-R, out in Oregon, I believe. Dr. Joe Pizzorno outlines what's next for Bastyr University. And I have the link to this story as always. And Dr. Pizzorno offers some comments, and Randy Frisch is also in there. And what we have is a college with serious financial issues. And I think I've talked about them before. There are others reporting on the issues for Bastyr and other colleges in the Northwest. While they are finally acknowledging their financial situation, and they managed to stabilize, I guess, thanks to some contributions, they, as far as I can tell, they have no actual plan for the effects of the upcoming loan caps for borrowing to go to these programs, to take these programs, and the earnings test that goes with it. And I doubt they'll talk about summer and fall enrollment because it doesn't look good. And outside of a relatively small total of gifts, these both articles from Mr. Frisch and from Dr. Pizzorno are full of generalizations. And I checked the results at my college viability. I checked the college viability inspection report, and Bastyr only reported on 4 of the 9 measures we track, only 4 of the 9. And 3 of those 4 were in the red. And of course, red means not good. All right, I'm going to do a sarcasm alert. Sarcasm alert. I wish I had sounds to go with that. The Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges is embracing a new name and logo. It's going to be called now the Commission on Colleges and Universities. They've taken away the geographic identifier of Southern Association. And remember, this is a sarcasm alert, so be ready. I guess these accreditors that can't tell us whether a college is graduating 70% or 40% of its students, nor tell us if a college is financially viable, wants to become more national, which they can, and less regional. The name change. And again, I understand the logic behind this, but in general, maybe across the board, these accreditors are not serving any semblance of consumer awareness reporting. They're just not. It's going to be private companies like College Viability and Matt Hendricks at Perspective Data Science that are and will become the market go-to for students and families. And I'll talk about this later on. Accreditors, the new Commission on Colleges and Universities, and I don't see a start date on that. They've not come close to earning the right to give students a consumer-friendly heads up on troubled or problematic colleges. But change your name, that's fine. But give us a heads up. And if you want, drop me a note. I'll give you the data. Matt Hendricks will give you the data. Charge you for it. We're going to give you the data that you clearly don't have access to. And before I go on to page 3, there are 2 other podcasts that I record and produce here at College Viability. Kitchen Table College Chat is with another higher education professional, Mark DeBoer. This podcast was created to provide a new and different perspective for parents and their families. Mark and I on the podcast challenge the conventional messaging from colleges and give listeners some new and in many cases aggressive questions to ask. And the other one, Beyond the College Brochure, does just that. It's another podcast project that takes the college discussion way beyond what colleges market with brochures and websites. It includes Paul Harvey-like stories about colleges, and started with a college student interviewing me about the college decision process. And it will soon include new stories about higher education that will help students and families. Will focus on helping students and families become more informed about the industry. Both podcasts, even the podcast I'm doing right now this week, all these podcasts are consistent with our themes of increased transparency from colleges for students and families, and in many cases, faculty and communities. And of course, I will leave the podcast links in the show notes and in the LinkedIn post. Page 3, going back up to that University of Denver story. The headline from, again, the Denver Post on June 11th, Elizabeth Hernandez has this story as well. Faculty group lashes out at University of Denver's major restructuring. The co-head of the American Association of University Professors chapter, take a deep breath, says faculty feel unheard and misrepresented. Now this, and again, the link will be in the show notes, this is a higher education dog bites man story. It's routine. It happens regularly. And remember what I have teased many times before, a college can change the font on its business card or something else equally small, change a font on its business card, and faculty will protest. And as I said at the top of the show, I looked at the numbers. University of Denver is simply trying to get ahead of the game. And you don't hear me say that often. But strange industry. So like I said earlier also at the top, get ready for students to occupy the president's office when they return in August, because that's, of course, one of the many forms of protest we have seen across the country. Next, Columbia College, the Missouri version. Columbia College's finances raise red flags for higher education experts. And I'm included in one of those experts. This was by the Missouri News Network. Sophie Rentschler had the story on June 11th. And she writes, Ms. Rentschler writes, years of tax filings raised several red flags. Rapid endowment spending, declining revenue, and shrinking annual contributions and grants are indicators to experts of the college's financial challenges. Columbia College officials disagree. They're entitled, saying some of the spending has been an investment in the school's future. I'll talk about that in a second. They also know it, as do all colleges, that it's tough times for higher education. The quote from Columbia College that caught my attention was, recent endowment funds were used for developments like the creation of 27 new programs, the development of additional online classes, and campus renovations. All right. This is from Sandra Hammer, who's Columbia College provost and senior vice president of academic affairs. Hammer said, the endowment draws are a conscious decision for the college. Now, I'm not going to go into the data deeply, but let me tell you, those endowment draws are really high, double-digit high. That's not necessarily a good decision. Well, Columbia College says it's because we're growing. We're adding stuff. Really? Adding 27 new programs in a declining higher education market? I've shared this before. The only thing they are guaranteed at Columbia College is startup costs. There will be costs to start up 27 new programs. It's highly unlikely that they will generate any new net materially significant revenue, period. This is yet another case of management by public relations. And like I said at the top, I was one of the many sources used in the story. Columbia College has been on the College Financial Health Show with Matt Hendricks and Gary Stocker to a very concerning review about its financial health and viability. Page 4, some more whining. Property down, of course. This is an editorial in the Salt Lake Tribune on June 12th from trustees at Westminster University in Utah. Preston Charo and Amy Wadsworth were the trustees that wrote this piece. And they say, voices, we're the trustees of Westminster University. Here's the real story of the school's financial health. And they go on to quote in a subheading, Westminster University is not on the brink. We are here, we are stable, and we are open for the next generation of Griffins, which is, of course, their nickname. All right, fair defense, trustees can write whatever they want. They didn't say anything that was incorrect. They didn't include everything either. And when I first read this, and I thought about not even using this in the show, but there's too much in here that I can use. And my first reaction was, this is protesting too much. Thou protesteth too much. And so I looked at the data. I do that. I looked at the data for Westminster University again. And the Prospective Data Science, Matt Hendricks Financial Compass, uses 15 key financial measures. And now they're out from 2021 through 2025, the most recently available. And Westminster University, the Utah version, has a negative trend or negative percent change in 10 of the 15. All right, this is real data, not generalizations. From the audited financial statement from the IRS 990s, in some cases from IPEDS data, this is real data that Westminster University, the Utah version, submitted. A couple quotes I want to go over from the trustees. One quote is they have low debt thresholds. Westminster's debt levels are far below institutions facing true financial struggles and have not triggered concerns by trustees. That's awfully soft. So that's awfully soft. So let's look at the trends from, again, Westminster University's own audited financial data. Since 2016, they have been slightly below or at their peer group and national median for private colleges. And when we look at it as a ratio of per 1 million, for every $1 million in total operating revenue, their debt trended lower than peers and national medians until, so the trustees are right so far, until 2024 and 2025, when they now have gone, their debt has now gone higher than both of those comparison groups. Draw your own conclusions. They chose to engage in generalizations. I'm actually looking at the data. You decide which way you want to go. The second quote, again, from the two trustees at Westminster University. No institutional alarms. No concerns about Westminster's viability have been raised by our independent auditors, accreditors, or lending banks. The entities, they go on to say, the entities that examine the university's full current financials on a regular basis. Okay, no questions. No doubt this is true. Let's look at the data. Let's go back to the trends and comparisons. At Westminster University, net student revenues have decreased about 60% from 2016 to 2025. The peer group, statistically determined peer group in the financial compass that I use, is down 3%, so down a little bit, not down 60%. And the national median is up 8 points. It's the comparisons and it's the trends that matter. Don't look at this in isolation. And that's what they're doing. In my mind, that's what they're doing here at Westminster University. They're only looking at their own data. And if they're looking at other data, they're not using it for legitimate numerical statistical comparisons. And just an interesting note, as of course, you data guy, data nerd on my forehead, one of the interesting measures is kind of an inside baseball number. It's called CapEx, or capital expenses, which is depreciation. And in theory and in general practice, the target for that is 1.0. So for every dollar in depreciation, you should have about $1 in capital expenses. And across the board, colleges don't even come close. Most colleges don't ever touch that 1.0 ratio, in large part because they don't have the resources to do it. Westminster University in Utah has been above that 1.0 annual target in 3 of the past 5 years. Now, I didn't take the time to go and try and figure out what it was. Typically, that means they built something, they fixed something, they made something better, they bought new computers, they invested in new software, something. So that's fine. That's their decision. They can make that decision, of course. But I thought that was interesting. It's kind of a build it and hope they will come model. We'll see if that's what happens, and maybe that's the business plan. But build it and hope they come in a declining market. Gotta be careful. And finally, Juliet Schulman Hall had a story in Mass Live last week, and the title read, "Massachusetts passed a law to stop abrupt college closures. So why are 2 colleges shutting down?" This is on June 12th. And then just today, the Boston Business Journal had a similar story. Their headline read, it was an editorial, "College closure information again is too little, too late. Massachusetts colleges are struggling, closing faster than regulators can track." Now, this is a consumer issue for students and families, and maybe even communities, maybe even faculty, as much, if not more, than it is a higher education issue. Nobody is giving, no public entity is giving college consumers, students and families, faculty, heads ups on colleges in trouble. These things don't happen overnight. I have said that. Many others have said that. The trend is there at Hampshire College, which is the focus of the story, and Anna Marie College. And so in my mind, clearly the state of Massachusetts is protecting the colleges much more than it is protecting the college students in that state. The negative financial trends for the colleges that have closed and others that haven't closed but may, the negative financial trends and comparisons of Massachusetts colleges and really colleges across the country clearly show high-risk colleges, decreasing enrollment, endowment spends getting too high, endowments dropping, spending more than they're taking in. constant concerns across the country. But I guess because of the political protection needed, the only reasonable solution to warning college students about risky colleges can't be accreditors, it can't be states. It's got to be private data providers. Private companies, for example, private companies like Kelley Blue Books, who evaluate cars, evaluates and compares cars, and Consumer Reports that evaluates and compares hundreds, if not thousands of products. Private data products in higher education, like the College Viability Inspection Report that I've talked about many times, and Prospective Data Sciences, Private College Financial Compass, do the same for colleges. We are independent. We get nothing from colleges. We get nothing from the government. Yes, when you buy our products, you pay us a fee. All right, fee for service, guilty. But the only incentive we have is to provide the data and analyze the data in a fair and consistent manner. And here's my guidance. Nobody's going to listen to it, but here's my guidance. State education departments and even college accreditors should contract out college financial health monitoring to private colleges. Should farm out private health monitoring to private entities, to private companies like PDS, like College Viability, and maybe a few others out there. So let's do the wrap. And the earlier story about Westminster U in Utah, complaining about their score in the Forbes grades, in this show, and Laura, I think on a previous one, did also, is another indication of why the private sector will be and should be at the forefront of monitoring the financial health of colleges. I think I pointed out earlier that quite a few colleges scored well on the Forbes grades and have shouted that success from the media mountaintops. Great for them. And you see the dichotomy here. Colleges with bad grades complain about the process with generalizations, and colleges with good grades celebrate. Talk about poor losers. And Mass Live and the Boston Business Journal both reported on Massachusetts' inability to give anything close to timely warnings to students and faculty and communities, despite a law passed 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, despite a law to share that when a college has dire finances. And again, like I just shared, it's not like we wake up one day and see bad finances at these colleges. Almost every week, Matt Hendricks and I do the College Financial Health Show. We see 5 to 10 years trends of colleges moving deeper into the financial abyss. We report on that. We note concerns. We never say a college will close. We do the same with the College Viability Inspection Report. We serve, and I've said this before, we serve as the equivalent of the Kelley Blue Book and Consumer Reports for higher education. So homework. I don't do this very often. I have homework assignment for listeners. Get out to the College Viability Inspection Report. It's at My College Viability, one long word, mycollegeviability.com. Look up a few colleges, no cost. Share the link with those in your world who will soon be college consumers, putting together a college list and ultimately choosing a college. As a matter of fact, if you look up a college, I'll use my name, Gary College, you can actually copy and paste that link, that URL, and send it to your friends, family, and neighbors. They'll actually get to see the same thing you saw. Don't be a party. This is what I worry about for myself. Don't be a party to those who could choose a college that clearly exhibits poor financial health. And there are hundreds. There will be more college closures. I'm not the first or only person to say that. There will be many more college closures. And the data is out there to help anyone identify higher risk colleges. But at the same time, there are hundreds and hundreds of colleges that exhibit the financial health, the financial strength to provide a solid 4-year education for their students. Find them, put them on, at least on the top of your list for consideration, because that will be one less thing, as Forrest Gump said, one less thing to worry about. I'm coming back next Monday for another episode of This Week in College Viability. As always, I'm grateful for your listening. The numbers continue to shoot upwards for those downloading the podcast. Thank you so much. Send me your feedback. Send me your comments. Send me your concerns. Send me your pushbacks to Gary at College Viability. I'll be happy to put them on the show. For now, thanks as always for listening. I'll be back next Monday.